So far, so good. Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Missile Industries Ford Falcon 351 Krusty Wagon project. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually coming to the end of my left side rust repair saga, culminating in the repair of this left side front passenger door. Now, I've got the guard sitting out the front that I'm going to steal sacrificial metal from, and the plan is to get the radius from the top part of the guard, and hopefully it works well enough as the radius for the bottom part of the door. So join me and we'll see how this works out. I've done one of these door repairs years ago, but that was really only on the inner door frame. I've never needed to do an outer door skin repair on one of these cars before, but today's the day we find out how that all works out. If we look along the left side of the car, that rust repair has been done. That rust repair has been done, and I've also done a rust repair down here, which ended up going pretty wonky. Actually, that plate that I cut out warped its way underneath the sill, so I welded it as it was, comfortable in the knowledge that I would be using bog to make that look better again. That was the same deal as the other side. It had a hole in the inner guard. I cut this out and it all turned to rust. Made another mess, but I fixed that one off camera just as a bit of a side project. So as a consequence of that, back wheel is back on because I'm done working in this region here. Got to say, I like seeing it with the hot wires back on it. I should really think about getting some tyres for these wheels, although these wheels are very scruffy. And speaking of these scruffy wheels, for some reason the front and the back wheels have different hub centre sizes, so you can't swap them around. It's kind of weird. Whoever bought these mags way back when didn't think that through. So here's the section of guard I've marked out. Not really that sure how the radiuses are going to go. There is a temptation to possibly cut the middle out of this so I have more of a radius. But right now I'm just going to cut that section out there, see how it works out. Now that I think about it, maybe I should be cutting right out of the middle here, at least that way you get the maximum amount of curvature. If I go this way, will there be enough curve at all? If I go here, maybe I'll get just the right amount of curve. Tell you what I should do, I should just cut this whole section out and then I'll just see what works. So here we have the inner frame. Now this front corner is not too bad. I'll cut that section out, weld a weir plate in. This back corner is where all the action is. That's pretty bad. It's exactly the same place where my driver's side door on that car under the cover, that's where that went. It all rusted out in the inside of the door frame. It was pretty straightforward to fix. Hopefully this will be much the same. I'll just cut out that section there, graft in a piece that looks similar, weld it all into this fold line here, which is still quite sturdy, and then I'll do the outer door skin. So I have made a start on cleaning up this frame. I have cut that rust section carefully out, as you can see from this piece here. It went like that. So I used the air hacksaw to neatly cut that out. Cut out a little bit more there because it was rusted out. Now I have good clean metal to weld onto, so that bit there shouldn't be too difficult to fix. Moving on to this bit at the back here, this is significantly uglier. And after I cut out all the rusty metal, I've ended up with this weird shape. So I'll deploy some more washing machine lid and hopefully I can bring that back and move on to the door skin, which probably is going to end up being the easiest part of this job. We'll see how we go. After a few careful minutes of crafting, I have my piece of metal to go into this gap. This is looking pretty promising. I should be able to tack that in and give it a little bit of a panel beat to get it to sit more neatly, and then that'll be done. This is a front edge, so it's not going to be very easy to see, so I don't really need to get too carried away making it look factory or anything. So I'm just going to weld it in, grind it flat, and then apply some rust treatment to it, and then that'll be that. So this should be pretty straightforward. And just like that, that little piece of patch panel is tacked in. I might give that a little bit of a whack across the front edge there so it sits down a bit further. But I'm pretty pleased with that, and I'm probably just going to weld it all straight in and grind it back, and then move on to the next bit. That is the welded end product. So I'll get the flap disc onto that and I'll see how it tidies up. That's about as carried away as I'm going to get with that. Every little pinprick hole that I see that I try to repair ends up blowing another hole in the door, and I end up having to plug it back up, which ends up with these gross large welds. So I've knocked them back as much as I'm prepared to do, because every extra hole I find leads to more holes, so I would say that's welded up sufficiently. Okay, moving on to the rear of the door and the repair. I've shaped up a piece of washing machine lid, and I've contoured it through that contour there. I'm probably just going to ignore this contour here and maybe hammer it into place. Maybe hammer it into place once I've got a few tacks up around this front edge here. I'll tack it in and I'll have a go at panel beating it. I'm not really that concerned about that contour there. This one here will be the one that eye line's drawn to, and this should hopefully work out okay, and I'll use this plate here to relocate this bit here that's come away at the join. So that shaped up pretty fast, and I'm hoping all those little gaps will give me enough wriggle room for it not to distort anything. First section welded up, that got very hot. That bit there was actually glowing red hot a few seconds ago. I'll give that a bit of a grind up, and I'll bend a piece of steel to go in that gap there. Then it'll be time to move on to the door skin. And there's the little sliver of metal that I'm going to use to plug that hole up. I'll lap it in along the top there, and I'll butt weld it in all around these edges here. And it should hopefully tidy up alright. Right, that's the inner door repaired. I don't know how easy that is to tell, but it's going to need some creative bog work to come up to spec, but I'm going to be blunt, and I'm really not that concerned about how pretty it is. These are inner panels, they don't really face a great deal of scrutiny from 20 meters away. So I'll put some black paint on that and I'll be done with it. One there, probably a nicer example. So there you have it. I'll give that a bit of a spray bomb, and it'll be time to move on to the outer door skin, which I promise I'll be more careful with. There we go. It's like factory. That will definitely do the trick as far as I'm concerned. The goal here is to have no more rust holes hanging out of my door. And so far, so good. So how good does this look so far? Just slide this piece of front guard over these gaping rust holes and just envisage, if you will, this tidied up and tacked into place like it was factory. Okay, change of plan. Rather than cut all this good metal out of this door, taking a whole bunch of radius with it, I'm just going to take these pieces that I cut out of the door and cut the shape of them out on my piece of donor metal and then tack those back into the door. Because the more meat I remove from here, the harder it's going to be to replicate that radius along the whole door. So I'm just going to patch the individual pieces, and hopefully those will be much easier to incorporate into that lower door skin without taking a whole bunch of metal out I don't need to take out. So far so good, but I have some terrible news. It's late Sunday afternoon and I'm out of time, so we'll pick this up next week.